Hello everyone. Let's start with this new concept, ecologism. And before proceeding onto its meaning, let's have a look at this term, anthropocentrism. क्योंकि इसके explanation के साथ ही ecologism will be understood in a better way. So, anthropocentrism, it is made up of two words, anthropos and centrism, which means centrality of humans. Centrality of human in everything. It is not just a philosophical idea, it is about the exploitation of resources. So it considers that humans are the apex species and all the material resources of this earth, all the mineral wealth, all water, flora, fauna, everything, it exists for the convenience of humans. So this belief is anthropocentrism. Whereas ecologism, it considers that uh, environment, it is the environment that is at the heart of everything, not the human. And ecologism, it refutes this concept. In other words, ecologism, it is a political philosophy, political, environmental, philosophical ideology that sees that natural environment, ecology is the central to human life. And to restore the balance or to provide the ecological balance, even if it needs radically changing everything, our society, our polity, our economic relations, our opportunities, our belief system, if it needs everything, radically changes everything, it should be done. And ecologism, it goes beyond environmentalism, and it is not just about protecting just the trees, protecting the environment. It calls for structural changes, क्योंकि जो root cause है, the idea, the unbridled exploitation, अगर वो stop नहीं होगा तो पेड़ लगाने से या environment protect करने से those activity would be akin to band-aid. और band-aid से wounds don't heal. Wounds तभी ठीक होते हैं जब we go to the root and resolve the issues there. Now the meaning. So ecologism, it views nature as a system of intricate relationship where humans are just one among many species. So इस तरह से it clearly stand against the idea of anthropocentrism. A human are not just at the center of everything. They are not the apex species. They are just one among many species. So this idea also call about giving due respect to give due and equal respect to all other species of flora and fauna. Now, this perspective emerged strongly in 1960s and 70s when environmental degradation became impossible to ignore. So environmental degradation that started with the industrial revolution, where जो unstoppable fossil fuel emissions है, unchecked capitalism है, and the environmental degradation by unpaced technological advancements, colonialism, imperialism, war. तो ये सब चीजें जो हैं उस वक्त का जो एमिशन है, दे स्टार्टेड मेकिंग अपीयरेंस लाइक हाइड्रा इन 1970s. तो इस टाइम पे वर्ल्ड ओवर डिफरेंट इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, डिफरेंट टॉक्स हैं, दे स्टार्टेड. और इसी टाइम पे 1970s ये जो कंसर्न, एनवायरमेंटल कंसर्न है, दे वर आल्सो रिजल्ट ऑफ मैनी पब्लिकेशन, द ह्यूमन कंसर्न, स्पेशली द 1969 सेंटा बारबरा ऑयल स्पिल. तो इस ऑयल स्पिल में अराउंड 4 to 5 million gallons of oil was spilled in this Santa Barbara coast in California. और फिर उसमें many wildlife, the marine flora and fauna, they died off. Where Rachel Carson's book Silent Spring was published, and this book, it exposed the dangers of pesticide, especially DDT, many herbicide. In short, it talks about the harmful effects, harmful consequence of application of chemicals. Those chemicals say with evidence is show that बहुत सारे जो marine flora and fauna जो है, जो वाइल्ड लाइफ है, they are at the receiving end. Finally, so the ecology, it is not just an advocacy of clean air and water. It means it is not about the protection of environment, but it demands a radical restructuring of economic, political, and cultural system. Now, the types of ecologism. First, shallow ecology that focus on managing the environment efficiently without challenging the centrality of human affairs, without challenging the basic values of industrial society. In short, it says that we should manage the environment, we should protect the environment, but we should not dismantle the very structure that degrade them. क्योंकि इंडस्ट्रियल सोसाइटी है, अगर फैक्ट्रीज होंगी तो एमिशंस होगा तो एनवायरमेंट डिग्रेड होगा, बट दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट प्रोटेक्टिंग द वन थिंग विदाउट jeopardizing the other thing. And this branch, it accepts human dominance over nature, but urges human to be wise custodian. So this assume that anthropocentrism is there, humans are at the center, but since they are the apex species, they are the powerful species, and they need the environment for their own survival, so they should be wise custodian. Key ideas: the nature should be protected primarily because it is necessary for human survival. But these ideas do not consider this value that it is nature that has produced human. Humans have not produced the nature. Then the approach: technological innovation, legal regulation, and sustainable development, which addresses the one issue, but it does not cater to the root cause. For example, the Clean Air Act in the 1970 in the USA, and in the modern time, the promotion of electrical vehicles or hydrogen vehicles as a solution to pollution. So this is the branch known as shallow ecology. The critics, deep ecologists, they criticize shallow ecology for being anthropocentric and not questioning consumerist lifestyle. Because emissions, environmental degradation, they are there because factory releases them, industrialization releases them. Now, factories exist because consumer need the product, and consumer need the product because there is a narrative, because people consider that consumption of these things will be essential for their life, will be there for their own good. So the ultimate root is the consumerism, the idea that we need to consume to progress in society. Consumption of these and these things are necessary for our survival, which is not. We can survive, बहुत कम में survive कर सकते हैं. But ultimately, the idea here is that the root cause is consumerism. So this thing is not being dismantled. यहाँ पे consumption जो है, it can reduce and diversify. Okay, even if you do not want to dismantle the whole structure, whole the scaffold of industrialization, but you can reduce and diversify. This way, the consumption, it will be moderate in nature. फिर diversification, उसमें फिर आप ना सिर्फ जो फैक्ट्री मेड प्रोडक्ट्स हैं बल्कि हैंडमेड प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स हैं, जो कह सकते हैं फार्म बेस्ड प्रोडक्ट हैं, एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्ट है, कॉटेज बेस्ड प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, आप उनको भी प्रमोट करेंगे. तो इस तरह से जो reduction in consumption along with diversification can be a solution. Anyway, now the important scholar associated with shallow ecology was Brian Norton's, who talk about weak anthropocentrism, which means anthropocentrism will be there, humans are at the center, but this emphasis will be weak because this idea will value nature, which is necessary for human survival, but human will be more than just custodians. Now, the second branch, deep ecology. Deep ecology rejects this shallow approach, and founded by Arnie Ness, it views all living beings as inherent worth regardless of their utility to humans. तो यानी जितने भी फ्लोरा एंड फौना स्पीशीज हैं इस पूरे दुनिया के अंदर, all of them, they are necessary, equal worth, and they are special in their own way, and that's a good idea. क्योंकि अगर जितनी भी स्पीशीज हम देखेंगे फ्रॉम बैक्टीरिया, कह सकते हैं बैक्टीरिया टू रेप्टाइल्स टू एवियंस टू मैमल्स टू insects, vertebrates, invertebrates, इन सब को अगर देखें तो हर एक जो स्पीशीज हैं or members of that species, they hold a special place. You might have read about tardigrades. Now, I am not pointing a single species as superior, but tardigrade, they can exist everywhere. They can survive everywhere. They can survive up to 100 degrees centigrade to minus 100 degrees centigrade. They can survive in a saline environment. They can exist in deep vents inside the earth. तो एक ये स्पीशीज हैं। अब यहाँ पे ह्यूमन और इनके बीच में कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं देख सकते। इवन इफ ह्यूमन हैव रीच द स्पेस, बट वी कैन नॉट justify the existence, the survival of any species, or even more the utility of any species just via the human lens. We all are interconnected. We live an integrate labyrinth of life, a web of life, and in that web, if you remove any such member, any species, just because of a recklessness, because of a irresponsible nature, then in one way or another, this threatens our own survival. Now, the key idea of deep ecology, it considers that humans are not superior to any other forms of life. And as of ethical principle, it talks about self-realization through identification with nature and recognizing that we are part of the earth, we are part of the nature, and nature has given birth to us. We have not given birth to the nature. We are product of it, and we are limited by it. And we have not thought about this possibility in a broader way, but this idea is very powerful. Nature is our mother. Nature has given birth to it. We are part of it, and we are limited by it. Even if we have progress in technological advancement, a thousandfold, but it does not mean that we can rule the nature. A simple idea. There have been five mass extinction and many smaller extinction, but five mass extinction were there. और जो last one है, the KPG extinction event, it wiped out non-avian dinosaurs. So if dinosaurs can be wiped out, if mammalian species, if marine species, if terrestrial species, if avians, if reptiles, if all such species can be wiped out, we, by our technological upgradation, we can hold on for a few centuries. That's it. But we cannot rule out this possibility that just like इतने सारे species चली गई, हमारा भी नंबर आ सकता है. Because as I've said, we are limited by nature. There are certain things that we cannot compensate with. Like we need air, water, food, metabolism. Our physical system, our physiological system, it is that of an animal. We belong to the animal group. अगर आपको नहीं पता है तो we the Homo sapiens, we belong to the primates. Primates belong to mammals. Mammals are those animals that have mammary gland, and mammals are also animals. So ultimately, our physiological system, the respiratory system, the excretory system, the digestive system, the neurological system, the psychological system, the hormonal system, all of them, they resemble that of an animal. So we are limited by it, और हमने अभी तक खुद को भी पूरी तरह से नहीं समझा है जिसमें we can be sure that our unchecked action will not have any consequence, will not have any boomerang consequence on us. Now, the examples of deep ecology, opposition to mega dams like Narmada Dam that displace not just humans but destroy entire ecosystem, displacing thousands of tribal people and submerging around hundreds of villages. Then there are movements that protect whales, forest, endangered species, even at the cost of economic interest, because everything cannot be calculated just by the monetary angle. फिर अगर ऐसा है तो why we are pumping up millions of dollars just to protect whales, forest, and endangered species, or we are trying very hard to revive those species that have gone extinct? Because It is not just about money. Money can be printed. Money is value of transaction, and such values fluctuate on day by day basis. But once any species has degraded its status from living to endangered to vulnerable and to extinct, we cannot do anything about it. And then if any such species is gone, it's like one pillar of a giant structure. It has been uprooted. And now this particular structure that is called life, it is in shambles. और फिर कोई भी एक storm, any such storm or any unforeseen gust of wind can uproot this structure. Now, the contemporary relevance. So, the rights of nature movement, it has led the river like Wanganui River in New Zealand and Ganga and Yamuna in India. They have been granted legal person. Now, the criticism of this branch. So, critics like Luke Ferry, they argue that deep ecology sometimes overlook human needs, especially in poorer countries. And yes, this balance needs to be found because uh, the humans of poorer country, they are also human. And if we the human who always try to look things in binary as yes or no, right or wrong, day or night, and if it means protecting the environment, then we may start off on a journey in which we become obsessed about it कि बस environment protect करना है. तो ऐसे में जो poorer country है where people need to be fed, where industrialization is necessary, where there will be some emissions, तो वहाँ पे भी human needs हैं. तो ऐसे में deep ecology concept है, it comes in clash with the human survival, human needs of people of poorer countries. So the answer is to find out balance rather than refuting the whole concept. Now, the third branch, social ecology. This branch links environmental problem to human social hierarchy. So, leading scholar Murray Bookchin argues that the domination of nature stems from the domination of human by other human. Therein lies the various structure of hierarchy, such as the class, gender, racial, and such hierarchy. It has been a part of our own evolutionary ladder because primates that started with the gorillas, chimpanzees, and various ancestors of modern human, all of them they gone through such hierarchies, such social hierarchies where power and dominance it decide who gets the larger share, the larger pool of resources and meeting. But such hierarchy also exists in present times. Such social hierarchies are also there. And उसी hierarchy की वजह से, उसी thought की वजह से, dominance and power, that this idea of domination of nature stem. Now, the key idea, without dismantling unjust social structure, unhealthy, obsessive, and unscientific social structure, environmental crisis will not be resolved. So, unless such unnecessary structures are dismantled, environment, this thing, this degradation, it will be captured by some rogue elements in one way or another. Now, the solution, decentralized participative democracy and eco community. For example, the Zapatista movement in Mexico, it blends indigenous rights, ecological preservation, and anti-capitalism. Now, जिसको पता नहीं है, decentralized means authority should not be centralized. क्योंकि centralization of authority is about hierarchy. तो यहाँ पे authority, it should be devolved from center to various appendages. Central government से regional government, state government से फिर local government से भी फिर ward level. तो इस तरह से जो authority है, it can be decentralized. Then participative democracy, it means जो decisions हैं, especially at ward level जहाँ पे लोग जो हैं they can participate in decisions via any mean possible. और प्रेजेंट टाइम में सोशल मीडिया जो है इट्स अ पावरफुल प्लेटफॉर्म. तो यहाँ पे different people they abuse their concern, they can come together, they can debate about that idea, they can participate in the decision making. So the second example is Rosawa, Northern Syria, that experiment with book chains idea, grassroots democracy, gender equality, and ecological balance, and they have succeeded in such endeavor. Now, the contemporary relevance, there are discussions on just transition in climate policy, that is, moving to green economy while ensuring social and economic justice. Yes, we need to find a balance with the nature, but that balance should not be come at the cost of social and economic mobility. So people, they should have a chance to earn their share, to earn their benefit, but we can find the alternative solution. And this transition, it should not be rapid, it can be just. Now, the fourth branch, ecofeminism. So, ecofeminism here it merges two ideologies, first ecologism and then feminism. So, this merged ideology asserts that exploitation of nature and operation of women they are interconnected, which means the oppressive idea behind both these system or both these quality they are same. The key idea, the dual domination of women and nature, they arise from the same patriarchal structure, the same belief in power and power, control, and domination. An important thinker, first Vandana Shiva, by her work Staying Alive, she criticized industrial agriculture and promote indigenous knowledge system. Then the second thinker, Caroline Merchant, via her work The Death of Nature, shows how the scientific revolution mechanized nature and justifies domination. So the scientific revolution in which people have had a taste of how technology can help ease the life, but same scientific revolution, it also provided people with a false belief that this nature is in control of them. Now, a simple thing. We do not know what the whole thing is. Whole thing called life. I am not talking just about the earth. I'm talking about the life, the whole system. Um, it's this whole system is like a tunnel. Mm. Simple example. Earth, it revolves around sun. Sun revolves around galaxy. There are many galaxies that revolve around the Milky Way galaxy. Milky Way galaxy, it revolves around Virgo cluster. Virgo cluster, it revolves around supercluster, a supercluster of galaxies. Now the supercluster, it revolves around universe. Now, if everything is in motion, that universe must be revolving around something. I'm not talking about the concept of multiverse. I am talking about the concept that we are in such a tunnel, a giant tunnel that we do not know the end of. ये एक simple सा एक example है to make us feel how tiny we are. And this scientific revelation, it was just like the tools made for our ease. Now, the tools that we made for our ease that help us survive this long, that help us, you know, uh, adapt to the adaptive pressures, help us to fight the nature. But it does not mean that we can control the nature, we can tame the nature. That might be a different thing. But thus, this idea of domination, power, and control, all of they are unjustified. So Caroline, she was right when she pointed out that the scientific revolution, the industrial revolution, they mechanized nature. Now the example, the Chipko movement in India, where women hug trees to protect forest, then Green Belt movement in Kenya, led by Wangari Maathai, women-led reforestation campaign. The contemporary debate. So, feminist critique of climate change impacts. They criticize the whole climate change scenario, where by putting forward the argument that women are disproportionately affected by natural disasters and resource scarcity. And yes, that is true because in the society we live in, women, they have been, relegated to the domestic sphere, and they have multiple responsibilities such as raising their children, looking after their family, providing the food, and arranging for various resources. So all such responsibilities are being met by women. And ऐसे में जो ultimate thing that they do not have the financial or the independence regarding decisions, वो सब आदमी लेते हैं. तो ऐसे में जो क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से जो भी डिजास्टर्स हैं, नेचुरल डिजास्टर या रिसोर्स स्केर्सिटी, they are going to disproportionately affect women. वो that thing is justified, that thing is normal because यहाँ पे जो मैंने बताया that they arrange for various resources. जो cities वगैरह में रह रहे हैं उनको तो ये नहीं पता, but in villages हो गया, जो कंट्री साइड है, suburbs हैं, वहाँ पे women they have to arrange water, uh, food, they need to arrange fodder, फिर जो एग्रीकल्चरल वर्क्स हैं वो भी उनको उन्हीं को करना पड़ता है. तो ऐसे में क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से जो बेसिक थिंग्स हैं फॉर सर्वाइवल, ये फिर दे विल बी अ ग्लट इन देम. उसकी वजह से जो डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट होगा वो वीमेन पे ही आएगा. नाउ द क्रिटिसिज्म. So some argue that ecofeminism, it risks essentializing women as closer to nature biologically, which is a false analogy. मतलब करने कुछ निकले और जवाब कुछ और मिल गया. So ecofeminism, when they try to put themselves close to nature, like pointing out that कि उनके ऊपर जो ऑपरेशन है, डोमिनेशन है, और जो जो नेचर का डोमिनेशन या नेचुरल डिग्रेडेशन है, both have the same cause, the patriarchal structure, the power and control that is associated in the masculine nature. But यहाँ पे when they try to essentialize themselves as closer to nature, it has a biological dimension. फिर यहाँ पे again, फिर जिस चीज से वो लड़ रहे हैं, feminism, that the biological difference, the biological sex, the feminine thing, the female thing, it is not a lesser object. They are as rational as men. They are equally capable as men. They can also fight. They can also hunt. They can also hold jobs. They can also achieve equal status. They deserve equal status. They deserve equal pay. तो यहाँ पे जब वो खुद को when they try to put themselves close to nature, तो ऐसे में फिर ये जो dimension है, biological dimension, it will be unhealthy for the feminist right they seek. Now, ecologism versus environmentalism. So, even if both the terms they are used interchangeably, but they have significant differences. So, environmentalism, it focuses on technical solution, but it has the sole purpose about protection of environment. और यहाँ पे the protection of environment, which means finding such technical solution, laws, clean energy, conservation parks, planting of trees. So all these ideas, they do not address other factors like challenging industrial or capitalist system. Whereas ecologism, it calls for a paradigm shift, a radical shift. It looks at the other factors. It calls for the radical restructuring of all the factors that leads to the destruction of environment. So this is a new ethical, new economic, and new form of politics. Now, the major movements and case studies. First, Chipko movement, which began in 1973 in Uttarakhand, inspired by Gandhian methods of non-violence, where villagers, especially women, physically embraced hug tree to prevent logging, prevent being cut, and it led by activists like Sundarlal Bahuguna and Gauradev. Significance, it was an early example of ecofeminism in India, and it forced Indian policymakers to rethink forest policy. Where the second contemporary example, Friday for Future, a global example that was sparked by Greta Thunberg in Sweden in 2018, where students protested government inaction on climate change. And this movement, it emphasizes intergenerational justice, where today's youth demand right to a livable future. Now, the impact of it, it shifted climate debate into the political mainstream and influenced election in countries like Germany and New Zealand, where third movement standing rock protest in the USA, where indigenous tribes they protested against the Dakota Access Pipeline that threatened their water supply and sacred land. And this movement emphasized indigenous ecological wisdom and the concept of water is life. Now, which calls for integrating indigenous wisdom into the mainstream, where significance it revived interest in indigenous environmental rights and indigenous knowledge. Now, the key thinkers first Murray Bookchin, who linked ecology with anarchism, argued that the argued for libertarian municipalism. Second, Vandana Shiva, who criticized globalization's ecological impact and promoted traditional and sustainable farming. And finally, James Lovelock, who proposed the Gaia hypothesis, suggested that Earth it functions like a self-regulating system, a closed loop that regulates itself, unless this regulation is disturbed by anthropocentric activities. Now, the criticisms of ecologism. First, unrealistic goals. So, deep ecological changes like dismantling consumerism are hard to implement in practice. Second, criticism neglect of development needs. Poorer countries argue that strict ecological standard can trap them in poverty or do not provide them avenues for economic mobilization. Next criticism is about romanticism, where critics argue that returning to nature ignores the benefits of technological advancement. Then the next criticism is greenwashing, कि जो corporate है, they exploit the ecological language without real action. Like they label product as eco-friendly, but product वही है जो factory से बन रहा है, emissions वही है, जो waste है वो is still being dumped in landfills or water bodies. But this is the criticism. And ethical dilemma. So conflict arises when environmental protection harms human population, like tiger reserve, it displaces indigenous communities. और इनमें से कोई ऐसा concept है जो that you need further explanation, you can drop the comments. Now the contemporary relevance. So the IPCC 6 assessment report of 2021-22, it shows that climate change is accelerating faster than anticipated. In India, to protect the environment, the government has enacted National Action Plan on Climate Change that aims to balance development and environment. And there are recent debates around Forest Conservation Amendment Bill of 2023 that reveals tension between development and conservation, a long-standing debate, a long-standing friction point. So this is it. कोई ऐसी चीज़ है जो समझ में नहीं आई that you want in detail, वो इस कमेंट बॉक्स में आप डाल सकते हैं. And वैसे I would like to highlight that the political science, this topic is quite rolling, quite comprehensive, quite broad, and quite intricate. It is as intricate as the labyrinth of life, the web of life. यहाँ पे कुछ भी टॉपिक छूटेगा नहीं, इसमें नहीं तो किसी और टॉपिक में वो चीज़ आ जाएगी. Everything is interconnected. And political science it is about polity. Polity is about what is common to us. So if climate change is common to us, if antimicrobial resistance is common to us, if forest conservation, ecofeminism, protection of whales, protection of bacteria, or even astronomical cosmological concepts are common to us, then they will find their place in political science. So you do not need to worry. फिर भी कुछ छूट जाए तो आप कमेंट में देख सकते हैं. बाकी my again similar request, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and spread the words amongst your friends and fellows. So this is it. Thanks again.